when only nuclear weapons would stop the advance, when the American president and he alone gives the okay.
What are the best graphical settings of Broken Arrow? Now, that is a question that is actually pretty hard to answer because it depends on a lot of things. Your computer, your monitor, and the quality that you want, the quality versus performance trade-off that you choose to do. So I'm going to explore a few things here in the settings, and essentially I'm going to show you what the best kind of thing is. So let's have a look at my settings. Now, straight off the bat, I gotta clarify a few things first. This is Steam's overlay with the FPS. Usually, obviously, I don't have it this big in the screen. This is just for educational purposes. And let's talk about some of the setup I have. So, I play on a TV in my living room, a 65-inch 4K TV, which is, yeah, pretty big. And you know what, it's a personal preference. I just enjoy it. You get to see the map pretty big. The resolution, I play in 4K. This is YouTube's version of 4K. This one's even higher, but this is what YouTube displays as 4K. Therefore, that's what I go for. A lot of YouTubers like to go for lower frames because it is a strategy game, and maybe it's not as important, but I actually really like to see the higher graphics. So, 1080. Let's have a look. That's what most YouTubers do play it as. Oh, and straight off the bat, that is so disgusting. The quality of that tree, yeah, this is jarring for me. So the things that we will have set in stone is, you know, the 380 times 2160 quality there. So yeah, straight away that is so much clearer, and that tree stopped vibrating like crazy on my screen. And I think this looks pretty good. So 4K is definitely the way forward. Usually, another thing is VSync. So this TV, because it is a TV, not a computer monitor, is limited at 60 FPS. So I could do full, so that basically caps my FPS to 60, which I do get more. This is just for test purposes. I'll explain this in a second. But, you know, for the purposes of the video, I've switched that off and I haven't put a limit on. But usually I would run a limit of 60 as well to match the TV, because obviously if the computer is producing more frames than the TV can actually relay, there's no point, that's just wasted energy. So usually I would have it capped at 60, but for educational purposes, we'll keep it at 144 preset. Now, I will be going through all of these to show you what it is, and I'll talk about my custom setup in a second. But the other thing that we really need to talk about is image scaling, FSR. Now, a lot of people don't know what this is, and I actually had to, in all fairness, look a lot of it up. So let's click on this. As it says up here, essentially, it's an interesting kind of, well, relatively new technology where it downscales the resolution, so there's less load on your graphics card and a higher load on your CPU. So there we go, increased performance of graphics at the cost of extra CPU. And Broken Arrow is a very GPU, so graphics processor unit intensive game. So if you can unload some of that onto your CPU, then that is a very good thing to do. So let me just quickly show you this part, and I highly recommend using FSR at all times. When we click at overscale, which is the highest possible setting, let's have a look. The frames drop immediately, they do recover, but they're slightly lower than with it off, right? And in terms of image quality, I don't know about you guys, but I do not notice a single difference. Similarly, if we switch on performance, let's have a look at this. I don't notice the change in picture quality whatsoever, but what we do obviously notice is that our frames have gone absolutely skyrocketed from 35, 37, whatever it was, to 90, and that's obviously a huge difference. It's so much smoother, and the main menu is actually a pretty good test for your graphics settings. It's designed that way. It's also a beautiful little hanger. You know, shout out to the devs for making the, you know, this bit quite interesting. So look, all this in the background, I genuinely do not notice a difference from overscale to the performance package, and actually it looks better than not having it on. So you get higher frames and a prettier looking game, because that tree was jittering a little bit for me. Now it's smooth AF. And the reflection here, I mean, this is why I've chosen this helicopter, just because the weird angles and reflections of light off it. Yeah, the reflection looks pretty beautiful, to be honest. So yeah, whatever you do, you should absolutely have this on. And if you want to have it on overscale because you've got a super good huge CPU, go for it. But genuinely, I don't notice a difference between overscale, balanced, quality, performance. It looks identical to me. So I'm going to keep it on performance to keep the FPS as high as possible, because we want high frames, don't we? And not sacrificing the quality of the image. So that's the base rules set. I will also put my computer stuff, my computer spec on the screen right now. And this computer I actually bought in January, so start of this year, for about £1,500. And you know what? It's a pre-made computer, Omen. I actually really highly recommend it. It's yeah, it's been working perfectly for me since I bought it. Now, before I go any further, let me get 3 things out the way. Firstly, I am not a computer expert, and if I make any inaccuracies, then please do correct me, because other viewers will benefit from that too. Number 2, I fully understand that I've got an RTX 4070 Super, and I am pretty lucky that I can afford that, and that, you know, that I have that as well as my TV, etc., that I can run a 4K game. I fully appreciate that not everybody is in the same position as me, and I'm not showing off. I'm just trying to get, trying to show what settings I have and what things we can do to try and get more frames whilst balancing quality. I also understand that it's an RTS and that, you know, the beauty of the game isn't as important as the strategy. So you probably want lower quality for higher frames. I understand that too. And third thing, I should say massive thank you to the guys supporting me on Patreon, because whilst I make a fair amount on, like a little bit on YouTube, I don't actually make anywhere near as much as any of the big YouTubers, so you guys really do help me out a lot. The link's in the description below, feel free to join them. Cheers. Let's get on with it. So, performance, we've covered FSR, now we need to look at the presets. I think the presets is definitely something we're going to talk about first. Okay, so preset number 1. Let's go for potato and let's see how it looks. Oh dear lord. You know what though? It's actually not that disgusting. Obviously the shadow's completely gone. The frames are through the roof though, which is yeah, interesting to see as well. But that doesn't actually look too bad. You know, obviously this is still 4K. So 4K at potato, I would argue, is better than 1080 high setting, potentially. Because, yeah, we lose some reflections, but the actual model still looks pretty good. Okay, anyway, that's potato. Let's look at low. Yep, bit of reflection quality increase there. That's appeared. Wait, did we have... Sorry, 1 second. Did we have the water reflection? Oh, we still have it on potato. And again, it doesn't look too bad, so this is the thing. So if you're really struggling for frames, potato doesn't look too awful. We're moving up though. I'm going to obviously show you this in a battle context as well. So here's low one more time. Not the, you know what, if anything, frames are higher for low. I'm not sure how that works, but okay. So frames are actually a little bit higher for low. So again, something to bear in mind if you don't have the best high-end system. Okay, now medium. Oh, it's affecting my image scaling as well. Okay, so here's medium. Here we go, the shadow looks a lot better. The reflection looks a lot better. And we're still getting 70, okay, 69 FPS. Looking around, it still looks pretty smooth overall. And yeah, it is still pretty good. I can't complain. Even on medium quality, I would happily play this game. It is still a very good looking game. Like I said, we will look at this more in a second. Now high, okay, let's have a look at high. And big frames drop, but again, not detrimental. We are still running at 60 FPS, but obviously the reflection is more beautiful. The model itself is a lot nicer. Let's hide the hood, just so we can see that hangar in all its glory. And there we go. So high FPS at we're still, sorry, high settings, and we're still running 60 FPS. Let's take a look at how this looks in game on the same presets. To test all my presets, I'm going to be using a scenario, so it's all the same, always the same. And the power plant invasion is the one I'm going to be using with a nuke, because we all care how good a nuke, how good the game looks does depend on how good a nuke looks, I find, because the prettier the nuke, the better the experience. So here we are, we've loaded in, and our frames have obviously dramatically decreased from the hangar. I did say the hangar was a good sort of baseline, but it looks like you need to half your FPS for an actual in-game. Now, yeah, this looks pretty awful. I mean, that is almost disgusting. That looks like a game from the early 2000s. And it's crazy that despite all this, we're still getting pretty low frames. The water... yeah, not the worst. The tracers actually don't look too bad. They're very smooth, which is nice. The units themselves. Let's have a look at these Marines. The models themselves look absolutely fine. Sorry, that shaking is getting annoying. Let's have a look at the Marines that are not on fire. Yeah, the models themselves are still very high quality, which is good, even on the potato settings. The smoke, etc. is decent. That actually looks pretty good, in my opinion. The fire, the buildings, the ground especially is shocking, but these things, the unit models are still pretty good. Okay, now the ultimate test, I think, is a nuke. So let's get a TU-160 in and drop the nuke right in the middle of the map and watch it go. Obviously, return to base. We've got to refund it. So nuke's gonna come in, gonna keep looking.
Tactical nuke incoming!
There we go. Again, actually not too bad. When we zoom in as well, that doesn't look too bad, you know? The only thing wrong with this potato setting, look, you still get shadows from a distance. Smoke looks great. The nuke's absolutely flattened all the units, so we can enjoy a bit of peace and quiet. Here's how it looks like without the hood. Again, this is really, really not bad. And now that all the action has stopped, all the shooting, the FPS has increased dramatically. Inside the nuke, still looks okay. I'm actually quite surprised. 4K, with the potato graphics setting, it doesn't look too bad. If we get the terrain improved, I think that in itself would be a massive step up. Right, let's increase the settings here. Apply to low. As we can see, there is a marked improvement on the ground. The FPS hasn't changed too much, but I guess there is no fighting going on. But when we look at smaller things, there are some smaller noticeable changes. Just overall, I can't put my finger on it exactly. Like, the water still looks pretty meh, the ground still looks pretty meh, but it does just feel a bit better than potato. So again, on the screen, I'll put it side by side for you. When we look at medium, let's have a look. Much better. But again, without the contact, we've dropped frames by about 25, so 25% lower frames despite the lack of units. So visually, however, it is actually way, way better already. I can absolutely feel the difference. Weird green building bug. I don't know why they haven't fixed that. Why does that happen? But anyway, yeah, looking at this, you do lose frames, still above 60, which is, let's be real, the benchmark that you want for an FPS. Sorry, RTS, not FPS. But the visual quality is a massive improvement from the previous. Let's bump it up once more to high on the preset. Again, a little bit better, but I haven't noticed too much. There was some stuff changing in the background. Again, I'll put it up side by side in a minute. But ultimately, I don't notice too much difference. For video's sake, I'm going to freeze this frame. And we're going to put up medium preset over here. Can't really notice much difference, I'll be honest. Can't really notice it at all. We will put on low again. Okay, now you definitely notice a difference with low and medium change, that is for sure. Yeah, looks a bit worse. Let's have a look at potato once again. That's awful. Yeah, the floor, the ground, the water, everything does look pretty awful. Now let's have a look at nukes on 4 screens at the same time, going off in the different settings. So, as we look at it, there's actually not that much difference at all, really. I mean, all 4 of them do look pretty fantastic. To be honest, if anything, the medium one is the one that's lacking a bit of smoke, but I'm not sure if that's just the rotation of the nuke, you know, the distribution. Obviously in the high one, we saw a lot more debris, a lot more vehicles, etc. moving, and also a much lower FPS as a result. Whereas the other FPSs are actually all pretty similar, so like medium and low especially, even though medium looks significantly better. Now, just to emphasize my previous FSR point, here's the high setting with the high FSR quality and the performance quality side by side as well, just to show you the difference in frames. As I'm sure you'll agree, there's not much visual difference, barely any at all, to be honest. And obviously you get an extra 10 FPS with the lower, the worse, the more performance-based FSR, which is huge. So now that we've had a look at those big bang bangs and nuke explosions, I hope you enjoyed me editing them because it has taken quite a while. We can talk about individual points over here. So we've talked about all of this already. Let's talk about rendering quality. No brainer, you want it on high. Stream budget. Now, I'm pretty sure the higher your RAM, so I've got 16 gigs, which is more than enough for this game, the higher you can afford to have this. So I'm going to have it on the top setting as well because I think that just allows quicker loading if it's got more saved already, and hence higher frames, less lag. It's rain quality, so we saw that the potato and low is pretty abysmal. You want high. Medium default setting obviously has it on high as well. We've started on high and we're working our way down. Water reflections now and quality. Now this is entirely up to you. I personally keep it on low. And let's keep this on medium, because realistically, the quality of the water doesn't actually affect the game. Decrease the value to improve performance, may as well get every little frame that we can get. And as we saw in the reflections earlier, there's not much difference anyway. Caustics. That is how you say it, isn't it? Again, I'm just going to keep this off, because whilst that does look pretty with the sea, you don't actually need it. So I don't like that. Looks pretty and it's nice and everything like that, but I'm very happy with this, you know. I'm very, very happy with this indeed, and this is just unnecessary for me. So I don't pay attention too much to water on a land-based game. Now, decorations. This is the amount of decorations, and again, whilst having lots of little vehicles, trucks, whatever is great, they do absolutely nothing for the game. And they just ruin your frames. So I'm going to keep this on potato. Now, when they get destroyed, however, you do notice the visual difference. The way they get thrown around is kind of impressive. The way buildings collapse is pretty cool. So I'm going to keep this on high. 3D model quality, absolutely high for sure. Grass. Now, this is one of those things that eats frames for days. So you want grass off. Even though, obviously, when you zoom in, if you're doing anything cinematic, you definitely want it on. But ultimately, from when you're zoomed out on a long way away, the grass isn't going to appear anyway. So you're more than happy keeping this one off. Unit dirt, I like it. I'm going to keep it on. And I don't think it actually affects your frames too badly. Now, here's another one that's pretty subjective. So shadows, yeah, you definitely want them on because it looks pretty, well, a bit wank without them. But the quality of them is very subjective. I personally don't really care about the quality of my shadows, and this is shadows on shadow, depending on the distance to the camera. So basically, like, I don't know how to explain this, but essentially, I really have nothing against keeping all my shadows low, because obviously every tree will have a shadow, every unit, etc., and that is just going to eat up your FPS, your processor, your GPU, etc. But as we said before, we want the FSR on low. Now, rumor has it that anti-aliasing actually affects your FSR quite significantly. So this is one of those things that you would like off. Post-processing, I don't really mind too much. I think that's stuff like how good this is how good the explosions look. We obviously want that on super high. But post-processing in this game, I don't think is that important. As we saw throughout the whole game, through all the tests earlier, there wasn't a significant change from medium to high in terms of overall sort of picture quality. As similarly, volumetric effect, now you do notice that in the hangar, I do want that on. Volumetric clouds, again, you just don't notice it. You spend the whole time looking at the ground. Why do you really care as much what's up in the sky? We do want a tiny bit of sharpness. Just a personal preference about how you want it to look. I think 20% is a good number. I'm going to keep it on there. Film grain, again, very, very personal preference. Personally, I'll just apply those settings and you'll see the FPS spike significantly. Remember that most of these are still on high, but our hangar FPS has just jumped from like 30 from the default all high settings to 120. That's huge. And bear in mind that when I play this game, I'm also going to have it capped at 60 because the processing software that I use that has that relays everything at 60 FPS anyway. So on the videos, it's 60 FPS. What's the point in having 124? I'd rather have the higher performance. But bear in mind that in battles, this is going to be a lot lower due to the sheer amount of stuff going on. Film grain. Let's just have a quick look. I really do not notice a difference, and I really don't really care, to be honest. I mean, let me just stick a unit in. Let's get a vehicle. Not much difference at all. So yeah, film grain I'm going to keep off. We need to go back down. Where is it? Over here. Film grain off. You play around with it. This is just an aesthetic thing. It doesn't really affect your FPS at all. Do what you want with film grain. Now, visual effects does have a huge impact on your FPS. The effects lens flare, you definitely want that on. Simple one to start with. The amount. So this does include like traces, the gunfire, etc. And we did see that whilst my FPS has jumped up, obviously if we were in battle, this would be significantly affected by what setting you have on here. Now, I think what I'd prefer to do is have a medium count with a high quality. Ultra, you know, when we look at Ultra, when you look at cruise missiles with that glow around them, this is interesting because I personally don't actually like them. I don't think it's realistic to have like a glow around the missile coming in. I like the smoke trail and I'm happy with that, so I like to keep it on high. As we saw with bigger explosions like the nuke, there isn't much difference. There's almost no difference anyway. So there we go. And the source count. So again, how many traces or different sets of traces, how many different sets of explosions do you want to see? 25 is the standard. If you're struggling, absolutely do turn it down. But don't put it below 10 because then you're going to see a lot less other stuff. So that is pretty much it. I'm going to apply it to 15. This is how you want it set up. I highly recommend this. Obviously, if you're struggling, if your graphics card can't keep up, then remember having this on really does help the FSR, and having this on medium, there was barely any difference to high. So definitely have it on medium and work off that. So I say set it to a preset, to what you expect you can have, play around with it, switch off shadows, or keep them on minimums because you really don't need it. Work on these sorts of things here to increase better frames without sacrificing quality too much, because shadows do really increase the strain. Similar thing, grass. Switch off your grass because that really does slow your computer down. Everything else though, you are quite comfortable running it high. As you saw, the units were very high quality even on the potato default preset. So yeah, what I want to show you is how the game looks with the settings that I've chosen compared to the previous ones. So these are the settings that I usually play with. It is pretty smooth. As we can see, we're getting very close to 60 FPS. Like I said, that's pretty much the limit anyway for me. So 60 FPS on this game is pretty good. And it looks, I mean, I think it looks great. The traces look fantastic. The unit's moving. Let's just zoom in on this BMD. Yeah, it looks great. Looks absolutely fine. It's about to start engaging. That's absolutely fine. Let's bring in some bombers, just to have another little look. SU-30 is the only one that I've got in this deck, right? A few occasional lag spikes. I mean, there is a lot of units on the ground here. And if it does get annoying, then you can absolutely turn some of the settings down. But like I said, I'm pretty happy at being very close to 60 FPS. Let's see, are the missiles coming in? Here they go. Beautiful. Just looks absolutely fine. These Marines, or the last surviving Marine, he looks great running through battle there, up until he just got clapped. And of course, the ultimate test for anything is a nuke. So let's get this nukey boy in. Let's get the nuke right here, clean out all these units. Back we go. Here the nuke comes. Like I said, I don't like that weird glow around the thing, even though it does look great for game purposes. I don't actually like it. Like, I don't think it looks that realistic or anything like that. It actually just kind of bugs me. The nuke's coming in. Beautiful. Good destruction right there. Frames still getting 60, and well, they're dramatically spiking up due to the amount of units that just got absolutely leveled. And when we zoom in nice and close, our FPS is still pretty good. And yeah, that is actually quite satisfying. So ultimately, it is up to you. I think these are the best settings. The water looks a bit meh, but like I said, I don't really care. Most of the time you're fighting in the ground where stuff looks like this. Oh no, I lost the power plant. Big shame. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know any other sort of tips and tricks that you might have picked up for better graphic settings. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope this helps more than anything. I really do hope this helps people, you know, find the sort of perfect thing that works for them. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.